Okay. So, hi, everybody. This is the first of a series of brew videos we're going to be doing for the Summertime Coffee Club for 2023 here. This is my friend Aaron.
Hello.
I'm Todd. We both work for Brandywine, and we kind of set up a fun little experience here where we're going to be going through the coffees and doing some brewing and kind of going through our favorite way to make the coffee that you receive each week, and then we're going to chat through the stories that inspired the artwork. So all the artwork this summer club is inspired by Delaware UFO stories or alien encounters. Is there anything that you've encountered weird in the skies in Delaware, Aaron, friend?
Absolutely. I think it was like 2 years ago, maybe. I was out back of my house and clear night, and I remember seeing these like floating orbs in like this straight line.
Whoa.
That just, it was so slow, and it was so weird. You couldn't tell how close or how far it was. The speed didn't even make sense. Like, it was definitely felt otherworldly.
That's awesome. The lights in the skies are one of my favorite parts of all of the aerial phenomenon. Mainly, like, the lights part of the whole unidentified aerial phenomenon is the most consistent thing. Like, even in other weird stuff, there's lights in the sky for Bigfoots, there's lights in the skies for UFOs. It's the best. I've seen plenty of weird lights in the sky, but have no clue what to chalk them up to. Like, it's definitely one of those things. The lead, or maybe the only investigator for MUFON, which is the Mutual UFO Network, it's the country's like leading UFO investigation team, or whatever you want to call it, lives behind me and says he sees weird shit all the time, but he's also a very weird dude, so who knows.
Behind you?
Yeah, he lives in the house. It's actually directly behind
How did I not know
Kevin's
that?
house. I found it out very randomly.
That is wild.
Yeah, Delaware's got some good UFO stuff going on. So before we get more into the story that we're going to talk about specifically here, I'm going to be brewing our Ethiopian offering for the club. It's a natural from Bale, and it's been just one of those beautiful, tropical, slightly in the blueberry side of things, but has some really nice tropical fruits going on. And I'm going to brew that using the Kalita Wave here, which I also like because it kind of looks like a little UFO, you know, it's got UFO vibes for sure. And this is kind of my standard recipe that I use when I'm drinking any new coffee, and it's probably my favorite as far as a go-to morning recipe too. And it's 20 grams of coffee to 333 grams of water, ground medium coarse. So I'm going to kind of start doing this process while we're talking about the alien stuff, and then you can read on the screen for the actual recipe here. But just so you know, weighing out 20 grams of coffee, and I'm going to grind it medium coarse. And here's the pretty bags for the I have camera up there. So, Aaron, this story is what I call the Delaware Transforming Triangle, and it takes place in Lewis, Delaware, which Lewis is one of our beach towns. It's all the way down there. It's also the oldest town in Delaware. It was the first one that was kind of colonized and whatnot, and there's a very bloody history, lots of very poor stuff done to indigenous folks and all the stuff that goes along with founding of America and whatnot, but has some really beautiful folklore mixed into the whole thing. And there is some weird stuff that persists to this day. And like, when I look into weird cases of Delaware, Lewis comes up more times than not. So it was very appropriate to start this little series with Lewis. Do you like, which beaches do you prefer in Delaware?
Lewis is a beautiful beach. I don't go there as much as I go to some others, but it's always really lovely when I am there. They got nice boats.
Absolutely. It is definitely a very exactly what you would think of when you think of a small Delaware beach town.
Yeah.
But they have lots of weird stuff, such as a Fiji mermaid, which is something that, if you're not familiar with, is essentially a really messed up taxidermied sideshow from back in the day, where they would sew.
It's like a monkey.
Yeah, usually monkeys and dolphins or some sort of large fish, and they would call it a mermaid and put it behind glass. So you can still go see one in a museum in Lewis, Delaware. There's still one that's preserved there. There's also the Cannonball House, which is a house that has a cannonball that's still lodged in the side of it, and now it's a historical building, and you can do ghost tours. It's a very haunted building. So, all right, we'll grind this here. Not talk like grinds. All right, so essentially, the story of the transforming triangle is a youth in Lewis was getting ready to go home from his friend's house one night, and when he was leaving, he looked up into the air and he saw a giant black triangle. And on each corner, he saw that there was a red light emanating. And oh, that was a good one for this. And essentially, look, I didn't even grind enough coffee. I'm gonna have to put some more in there. Look at that, I'm talking too much and not paying attention. But essentially, he was leaving his friend's house one night from Lewis, Delaware, and his friend lived in a very beach wooded area, if you can picture that. Lots of green fir trees, still foresty, but very much in that weird beach forest kind
I love
of vibe.
that vibe. The beach and the forest were Southern Delaware just has that really beautiful
Oh yeah,
vibe.
it's one of my favorite things. And in the world of the weird or the paranormal and stuff, people talk a lot about liminal spaces and these places where there's something special going on in nature itself. And I think beaches are that to a T. I mean, you have the meeting of land and water where the ocean's coming in, and then you have all these habitats like dunes and these transitional forests that are half beach forest, half regular forest. It's just a really interesting area. So our 12-year-old boy is leaving his friend's house and he looks up in the sky and he sees black triangle. Each corner has a different red light, and he stops and he's like, huh, very weird. And it's almost that when the triangle notices him noticing the triangle starts coming towards him.
Oh
and
my
it starts
gosh.
transforming so that it stops being so much of a triangle and starts becoming a humanoid shape where it gets these pointy legs and these pointy arms.
And it's floating in the sky.
And it's hovering down like this, essentially, and coming to the ground and transforming as it comes down. And by the time it lands on the ground, it's fully humanoid, just blacker than black. The red dots have become a facial expression from the side.
Wow.
So you have this very physical metal craft, this very traditional flying saucer thing that transforms into a humanoid, biological entity. Weird. You don't hear that stuff very much in UFO cases. And the interesting part is the kid sees this and he gets a little freaked out at first, but he doesn't get too scared to the point where he runs away. He stands there and watches this whole transformation happen. But then as soon as it's transformed, as soon as it's on the ground, he books it. He's out.
It's it had something overcame him and he couldn't react or something.
It was like a mesmer, and you hear these things a lot where people are kind of they go through these experiences and they don't know why they're not reacting the way you would think they react. My favorite examples are people will tell these horrifying abduction or bedroom intruder stories, and then they're like, this whole horrible thing happened and it was the scariest thing ever, and then I just turned over and went back to bed.
Yeah,
and I was fine.
It does seem like that happens a lot, a trance.
Yeah, and it's if something that out of the ordinary or that enigmatic or anomalous.
You would think you would maybe instinctually kind of lose your mind, but there's a reason why.
Yes. So that was so he starts screaming, right? He sees this thing transform, he starts screaming for his friend doesn't respond, so he just books it home. He's on his bike, he's just riding as fast as he can. He gets home and tells his mom, tells his dad, and everybody just kind of, there's no disbelieving or believing in it. It's very interesting how it's just kind of accepted, and that's where the case stops. So one of my least favorite part about a lot of these cases is that they just stop. They just there's no follow up. What happened the next day? How do you incorporate these things with the rest of your life?
So you said he was 12?
He was 12.
You know how adults are.
Yes.
They're probably oh, yeah, you silly child. You probably saw a plane. And he's like, no.
That is so true, especially in, it's funny how much culture plays a role in these different things. And I think that in our culture, that's very much the case, where we tell the kid that it was, and it's not a bad thing always to tell them it was something they saw, imagination, dreams, because it does help the kid kind of cope with something that's that big. But it also is, it can be a little bit adding to the trauma of it all,
Absolutely.
not being believed and everything. But I love that story. I love how weird it is. I love that it just it's not your typical flying saucer. It has nothing to do with the military. It has nothing to do with any kind of the current UFO narrative. It's just wild. It's just one of those wild, very small.
I wonder what the entity wanted and what it would have done if the boy had not ran away.
No, these are all things that I wonder all the time, and I think a lot comes down to, or I like to think, I have no clue really, but I like to think that the way we react to these things plays a part in the whole. So if he reacted more curiously, maybe it would have been a weird curious interaction, but if he acted very out of fear and
Aggressive.
aggressive, then like it could be a very negative interaction.
Right.
But who knows? It's all just kind of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, this is essentially we have 4 stories that are along this line that we're going to be going over in the next couple weeks, and doing these little videos where we'll also be putting these up as audio podcasts as long as everything goes smoothly. This is our first try, so we're going to see how everything goes after we hit done on the recording here. But for the coffee side of things, I did the brew I was just talking about, 20 grams and then 330 grams of water. I went over a little bit. I actually got 336, but it'll be just fine. You can always, a little wiggle room's always fine. But essentially, I tried to do this in 3 pours after the bloom, doing 1 big pour of up to 100 grams of coffee, and then doing really slow pours right in the middle until it hit that 333 final beverage weight. And now it should be ready to go. So one thing that when setting up I didn't think about was we should probably have mugs so we can taste these coffees and everything. So I'm going to be right back. I'm going to go grab some cups, which I guess it doesn't really matter in the video format. All right. So again, this is our Ethiopia Bali Natural.
Cheers.
Cheers. Still a little warm, but you can get a lot of that tropical kind of pineapple-y thing right off the top. Has some nice mouthfeel to it, gets a little chewy, has a little bit more of the, has a little bit more body than what I thought it was going to have, which is nice.
Very silky.
Yeah, silky is a good word for it, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's good coffee to drink while looking for UFOs in the woods.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, well, I think we're gonna leave this here. I feel like this was a good length.
Yeah,
I feel like right. We're still figuring it all out. So obviously this is the first one, and we'll be back to do a bunch more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging, Aaron. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Cool.
Clap.
I think